Good morning. Welcome to week whatever it is on lockdown. Last week we did tomato and basil soup with you. We're going to show you something this week about how to use that tomato basil soup in something other than soup. And we're carrying on with the idea of grow bags and growing your own vegetables and that kind of thing. So today we're going to be doing crostinis with roasted vegetables, with mozzarella, fresh basil and a little bit of tomato sauce, because your soup doesn't have to be soup. You can call it sauce if you like. Okay, so we're going to make the crostinis first. Also, by the way, you don't have to use mozzarella. You can use any cheese that you like. I happen to like mozzarella. It's easy. It's cheap. It's within budget here, so that's what we're going to use today. So the first thing we need to get in the oven is the crostinis. So I've chosen a normal white sort of French baguette. These are the par-baked ones. These are the ones that are sort of half-baked. You see them sort of in a sealed packet in your supermarket. They're great because obviously you're going to cook on the baguette a little bit longer with some olive oil on it, and the best the bread is, the better the bread is, the better the crostini is going to be. So I'm just going to slice these into very, very thin. So, we've just sliced one there. As you can see, they're very, very thin. You could even make them thinner. I'm just going to lay them out on here. Once cooked, they keep for a couple of days. You increase the longevity of them, but just be aware that obviously they're supposed to be quite hard and crispy. That's the idea. You're supposed to be able to taste the salt and herbs and olive oil, but they do keep long. But the longer you keep them, the harder they're going to get. So if you leave them for about a week, they're going to be like concrete, but they'll be alright for a couple of days. So I've got those in there like so, and we're just going to liberally pour on some olive oil. Make sure each bit gets a good coating. Like so. Not too much. A couple of people noticed I was quite liberal with the salt last week with the soup. You wouldn't necessarily have to be that liberal normally, so just a spot of salt, and we're going to get that into the oven. You want to put this in really for about 9 minutes. You just want it to go nice and golden brown, but obviously keep an eye on it after about 6. Okay, so the other thing we need to get into the oven will be the roasted vegetables. So I'm going to start with an aubergine. So this horrible looking vegetable here is called an aubergine. It's a weird shape, isn't it? It's a root vegetable, used a lot around the Mediterranean, and on its own, a pretty sort of standard, bleak sort of type of vegetable really, but when cooked, it's very, very lovely, especially roasted. So we're going to cut these into just nice big chunks, using the same method as last week. I haven't got my knives this week, which is a bit of a shame. So we're using the knives here, so we need to be a little bit more careful, but exactly the same principle, putting your thumb in the middle, keeping your thumb behind at all times, and just dice those. I'm just going to put them in here. There's no real order to this, it can just be nice and jumbled up. In fact, the more sort of jumbled up it is, the messier it is, the better this looks. Again, the same with the courgette. Now that's quite big, I'm probably only going to use half that. Then I've got some tomatoes. I've just picked some very sort of affordable plum tomatoes here. You don't need to cut these up at all. Just put in a good handful like so. Give it a bit of a mix up. And then I've got a red onion. We're going to cut that different to last week. So we cut it in half, peeled it, cut it in half like so. Put it on its flat side. And then all we're going to do is cut it along like this. The thinner the better really. But we want it to stay sort of reasonably whole. So what we're not going to do here, which is what you saw me do last week, is cut off the stem which holds it in place. But we want to keep it kind of in chunks, so we're going to keep that bit in. Put that in like that. Okay, so here we've got some just very simple aubergine, courgette, tomato and red onion. You can also add some red pepper to that. What is crucial in this is a bit of garlic. Now garlic scares some people because it's quite fiddly. Let me show you a really, really quick way to sort garlic out. So here's your garlic hole, put your palm on it, just push down, like so you separate them out. I'm going to use probably 2 or 3. Let's put those ones there. And then using your knife, put your knife onto the edge of the garlic, and again just push down again. And what you'll see is that the edge of the garlic just peels off nicely. So we'll just peel the middle bit out. Now there's no need to cut that up for roasted vegetables, just chuck it in whole. So then what we add, a little bit of salt. Now what I am using here is last year, you'll notice in that basil video, we said don't add the basil while you're cooking because it cooks out. Now we are going to add a little bit of basil here, but I'm not going to use the fresh basil at this point. I'm going to use
2 hours later.
the dried basil that we had last week. So I'm going to use a little bit of that just in here now. And what that will do is it will give the vegetables some flavour, but it won't cook it right out because we're going to re-infuse it at the end with fresh basil. So what this does is it just allows the basil to give it some flavour throughout the cooking process, but it won't remove the flavour because we're going to add fresh basil at the end. So a bit more oil in there. Be quite liberal with oil. You haven't got to worry about too much about olive oil. So that's about right. We're now going to put that into the oven. We want that to go quite dark and well cooked. Not burnt, but a bit beyond sort of golden brown. So we're going to put that in for about 20 minutes, which is what we're going to do now. Okay, so I've just chucked these crostinis just while we were preparing the roasted veg. They're not quite yet. They're nice and hard, actually, but they're not quite at the stage I want them to be. So I'm going to turn these over at this point. On the edges, they're nice and brown, so I'm just going to turn them over. You assess the situation here at this point and just see if you need any more olive oil. You can obviously see the bits that haven't got any olive oil on them because the bits that have got olive oil are nice and golden brown and the bits that haven't are white. So just any white bits, just pour a little bit more over the top and then back into the oven for about another 3 minutes. Okay, so we've been about 3 or 4 minutes now. We're just going to check these crostinis. Oh, these are perfect. Perfect. There we go. So do you see you got the little Italian toasts, aren't they? Do you see? And they're nice and crispy, nice and brown, golden brown. And we're going to leave those to cool down now as we wait for the roasted vegetables. Okay, so we're just going to get out the roasted vegetables from the oven. They're about 2 minutes now before being done, and this is the point I like to add some fresh herbs. It's about the right time, 2 or 3 minutes, because it doesn't burn the vegetables, but it releases enough flavour to give it a real intensity and just infuse the dish, so it tickles your taste buds even more. A bit of a talk first of all on potted herbs, especially if you buy them like this and you keep them in your window at home. Now you'll notice here that it probably doesn't look like it, but the plant and any herb you buy will always be symmetrical. So when you're picking your herbs from your plant to give it more life and to keep it growing, I don't know if you've ever found sometimes when you get these things and then you break them off and then the top goes black and then it all dies within about a day. Well, let me show you how to keep your herbs growing and full of life. So on top of here you can see the symmetry in this leaf here. So you can see one here, one here, one here, one here, and 2 tiny ones in the middle. So what we want to do is we want to pick out the 2 big ones like that. If you take one off one side, always take the one off the other. If someone took off one of your legs, you would fall over. And it's the kind of same principle really. They need balance and they need fluidity and they need to have symmetry. So make sure that when you pick your bits, you always pick one off one side and one off the other. Sometimes if you're making pesto, you do need to pull up a bunch. And when you do that, you just go down, follow the stem. So follow the stem all the way down to the next one. Pinch that one, so you've taken the top, but you've left the bottom to grow. And what you'll find is once you've done that, the bottom will come up as well. And you'll probably give your life, the life of your herbs, an extra 2 or 3 weeks if you do that and water it regularly. So we're going to pick off some of these bits here. I'm just picking the bits off the top, like that. Really good one. Let's find another one. There we go. Off that one. Then find the one on the other side, which is that one. This one here is okay. That's okay. That's a bit big on that one. That's good. And then what we're going to do is tear them with our fingers. Don't slice them with a knife. If you slice them with a knife, what you want is when you cut something, you want to cut it almost sort of like that, so that inside these leaves all the flavours exist that you want. So if you cut it like that, you kind of almost seal the two halves. But if you cut it on an angle or tear it, then you release the flavour because you don't cut it evenly, and therefore the flavour inside has more chance to get out. That's looking good. Yes, we just sprinkle those on top. Mix around, and then we're just going to put that back into the oven literally for like 90 seconds, a minute. There we go. Okay, so we're about to serve this now. A couple of things. I've got the tomato soup that we made last time, and what I've done here is I've added a little bit more tomato puree and just whizzed it up a lot more, so we've got fine puree here. You can warm this up to go on top, but trust me, it's like ketchup. You really don't need to put it on hot at all. And also, the roasted vegetables are going to be hot, so this will sort of heat it up. If you just put it on spoonfuls anyway, then the other things you've got on the plate will warm this through, so don't worry too much about that. And then the other thing we've got here is some mozzarella. This is called buffalo mozzarella. You'll buy this in any supermarket. And I'm just going to cut this into 3. Like so. There's a reason we're doing that. I'll show you that in a moment. So the final process of this is you have your sauce, you have your mozzarella. I've just got a little bit more a few more heads off of those basil for a bit of decoration. And then I put my crostinis on a plate here. So now we're going to get out the vegetables. Right, they are fantastic. If you have a look at those, you can see they're cooked. They've kind of crimped a little bit. You can see that the onions are translucent. And the vegetables are soft. You should have some oil in the bottom, but more crucially, they've darkened, but they're not burnt. These are also very nice when you leave them to go cold. If you go to Italy or Spain or France, you'll find they cook these off a lot. They leave them to go cold, and then they're very nice as an accompaniment with salad for lunch or whatever. So what we're going to do is very easy. We're just going to divide this between the two on the crostinis, like so. We'll put one on there. Try and get equal amounts of everything you've got. Okay, that's good. Just throw that bit away. Just bring it all to the middle a bit. And then with these 3 bits of mozzarella, just get one bit, again a bit like the basil, you don't need to cut them, they're better torn. So just get a little bit, and a bit like pizza, just find some gaps, just take bits off and fill them. Like that. Now leave that for about a minute, no longer, because the heat from the roasted vegetables will begin to melt the mozzarella. It won't be too much, it'll just soften it up. There we go. Put the sauce here now. I'm just going to put that on like that. These on top like so. And there you have it. Crostini with roasted vegetable, tomato sauce, mozzarella